Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another Wellness Wednesday. I am once again indoors, but I have been working on my background for when I have to do videos indoors now that it's so cold and so wet and rainy that it just is not feasible to be outside. I know you guys will miss the kittens and their fun interruptions, but we'll try to make the best of it indoors until the weather improves. All right, so we're 5 days into January now, and is everyone still going strong on all of their New Year's resolutions to, be a better person and do good in the world and all that stuff? I hope so. I told you last week about my specific diet plans for January and what I want to do as far as diet to challenge myself. And just as a recap, that is to eliminate dairy again. I had eliminated it completely for a while, and then I added back in ghee, and that was no problem. And then I added back in butter right at the same time that I kind of started playing with holiday food and stuff and getting out of weight loss mode. And so I didn't really get a great picture of how butter itself affected me. And I really would like to get a better picture of that. So I decided to cut butter out again. And that includes the butter powder that I've been using in my egg white breads, which is amazing and delicious and wonderful. So that's sad, but I'm confident that I'll try it again, and it'll be more of a good introduction to find out how I actually do with butter. And then beyond cutting out the dairy again, I am going to be re-implementing my lean days like I did back in October and November. That did really well for me. I lost about 12 pounds, incorporating between 3 and 4 lean days per week. So I did every other day for a month, and that was great, but every other day is a lot. So then the next month I cut it down to just 3 days a week, and I continued to lose really well, and I liked the way it helped my schedule. So that's what I decided to re-implement for the month of January, 3 lean days a week. So we're 5 days into the month now, and I have implemented those things, and they are going very well. I did my first lean day on Sunday this past week because Saturday was New Year's Day, and we were just having a family New Year's Day at home, and I didn't feel like making that a lean day, and it was easy enough to switch to Sunday. So I did my first lean day on Sunday, and that felt really good. I didn't have too much trouble getting back into the swing of things. It does take a little bit more brain power when you're getting back into a habit that you had kind of gotten out of. So had to think about it a little more, but it wasn't too terribly painful. And then Monday was a regular higher fat day. And now I'm just on my schedule of 3 days a week lean days, and it's going really well. Just real quick, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about when I say lean days, I do have a video where I went more in depth into it. So I will link that up in the cards. But just real quick, I call it lean day because it's basically just a day where I take my baseline diet, which I consider to be a ketovore or higher protein keto diet, and all I do on the lean days is just lower the fat. So instead of picking fatty meat or chicken thighs with skin on them, I choose leaner cuts of meat. I choose chicken breasts with no skin. I love having the lower fat egg white breads on the lean days. That's a great way to get in protein without tons of fat. I really focus on the protein, try to get that up really high. And I find that if I limit my choices to those leaner types of foods, my fats end up being anywhere from like 30 to 50 grams for the day. I do track my macros and my calories on those lean days, but I actually don't limit myself while I'm tracking. I track just to see where I'm landing, but I eat to hunger. So it's just kind of interesting to kind of see where I landed. Some days I feel like I've eaten a lot, and then I plug it into Carb Manager and find out I really didn't. And some days I think I haven't eaten very much, and then I plug it into Carb Manager and I'm like, oh my gosh, I ate a ton. So it's just kind of interesting to see where I land. And especially when I do my what I eat in a day videos for you guys, I got tons of requests for tracking and showing my calories and macros because I know it's really interesting to see where everything ends up. So my lean days are usually somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 calories, and my fat grams usually end up between 30 and 50. My protein grams usually are well over 100, usually like 140 to 160, somewhere in there, but it really does vary from lean day to lean day. And then I just keep my carbs as low as possible. Usually they're somewhere between 15 and 30, and that's pretty average for me. The protein sparing modified fast days are very, very popular right now, and lots of people are doing them. And what I'm doing is definitely influenced by what I've learned about protein sparing modified fast, but I don't call it that specifically because I'm not keeping my calories as low as protein sparing modified fast recommends. And because I'm not following the macro and the calorie guidelines, I follow my hunger. I just don't want to confuse anybody. So I just decided to call them lean days. I feel like that is the most descriptive thing I can name them to not confuse people and to really communicate what it is. It's my basic diet. All I'm doing is making it lean. And just as a contrast, when I do count my calories and macros on my regular Ketovore days, and I did this a lot during the months of October and November. I just kind of got into the habit of plugging everything in. Again, I didn't limit myself based on the numbers. I just plugged it in to see where I was at and what the choices I was making was adding up to. But on those regular Ketovore days, my calories would land anywhere between 1,500 and like 2,300. So there was a really big variation of how much I would eat in a given day. And it really just depended on my hunger and just my choices for the day. Some days, if I chose to have like pork spare ribs or something, those are extra fatty and very high calorie. And so that day just ended up being higher calorie than another day where I chose something that had a little less fat. The amount of protein I usually get in for one of my regular Ketovore days is very similar to what I get in on my lean days. I tend to get like maybe 10 or 20 grams higher of protein on my lean days, but I still get well over 100 on my regular days, usually somewhere between 130 and 150 on my regular days. So still pretty high on the protein. I find that when I have about a 1-to-1 ratio of protein grams to fat grams, it keeps my body at a really happy place. I feel very satisfied. I don't tend to lose weight at that level, but I can maintain my weight really easily. And that's what I did through the whole month of December when I wasn't adding any lean days. Whenever I would count up my calories and macros, I would find that I was eating about 1-to-1 ratio of protein to fat. On my regular days, my carbs are also about the same as on my lean days, somewhere between 15 to 30, depending on what my choices are. And then my fat grams are somewhere above 100, usually about like 120 to 130, something like that. And then my protein is just barely higher than that, but close to a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's a big picture overview of like my diet and how I'm challenging myself specifically in January. But I did have 2 more challenges or goals that I wanted to share with you guys that I was thinking through things that wanted to try and challenge myself with. And these are a couple that I thought of beyond the lean days and beyond the reducing the dairy. The first one is exercise. I am not a big exerciser. I have gone through phases of being a big exerciser. I got a membership at a gym before we moved. Actually, it was not long before the gyms all closed down, back in 2020, which was a bummer after just getting a gym membership, after not having one for so long because I had newborn babies for so many years. So anyways, that I had the gym membership, then we moved, and so that's gone. And then during the move, it was, a very physical time of moving lots of boxes. It was really intense. Definitely was not adding any extra exercise at that point. Then we moved here, and of course there's tons of work to do on the farm. I did a lot of yard work and landscaping, and that's all, very physical activity. But since the winter has come, there's not as much to do outside. We're kind of a lot more inside these days. I did get a Fitbit. I showed you that in another video, and I haven't really been adding more steps or like challenging myself to get a certain number of steps. I've just been using it more to get an idea of my movement throughout the day, and then I'll use that information to decide what I want to do beyond that. But the way that I wanted to challenge myself with exercise specifically this month and maybe I'll do different challenges for exercise in future months. But this month, I just wanted to challenge myself to get back to doing yoga at least 3 days a week. I have the Down Dog app on my phone, and I love that app. It is so, so good. And for what they offer, I think the price is very reasonable. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just use them and love them. But they charge by the year, and it was like $30 a year when I joined. But I think they have a deal going on here now in January where you can get it like $20 for an entire year. And it's an amazing app. I have no excuses when it comes to yoga and not doing my yoga. There's no reason that I should not be able to get on there and do like 20 minutes of yoga every day. So I'm challenging myself to at least 3 days a week do my yoga in the morning. And actually, I've been finding it really nice. In the morning, I will get up and I will light my candles back here in my room without, turning on the lights yet or anything. And I'll go through I just do 20 minutes. I feel like that's enough for me. And it's been super relaxing and super good for my body. And I've been really enjoying it. Every time I get back into it, I'm like, why did I ever stop? This is so wonderful. But somehow we just get out of habits like that. So anyways, that's my first challenge or goal that I want for this month of January. And then the second one is kind of funny. Basically, what I decided to do was challenge myself to switch my second cup of coffee in the morning to a cup of tea instead. And I don't have any problem with coffee. I think coffee is great as long as you can handle it. And I can handle it. I think I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine because my sleep is fantastic. And I've gone really long periods without coffee because I've heard people talk about how terrible it is and how much better your life is going to be, after a few weeks of giving up coffee. And so in 2020, I gave up coffee for 6 months and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it and everything's going to be better. And it was not better. It just wasn't. I love coffee. I love the routine of it and the ritual of it. And from all of my experimentation, I feel like I don't have an issue with it. And actually, there's some really good data that if you handle coffee well, like if it doesn't affect your sleep and things, it's actually can be a net benefit. And I can put some of that down below. I love listening to Jade Teta. I talk about him all the time on my Wellness Wednesdays, but he has some good info on coffee and how it's really good for weight loss and can be really good for health. And of course, like everything else, it depends on the context of the person drinking it, of course. And after lots of experimentation and reading and learning, I have decided that my context is fine with coffee. But I always drink my coffee with, calories because I put in my dairy-free creamer. I was able to break my addiction to the heavy cream, which I didn't think I'd ever be able to do, but I did. And but I still am drinking it with the dairy-free creamer, which is calories. And it's just an easy way for me to consume calories. And I thought that if I just cut down a little bit, I just am interested to see what happens, basically. Maybe at the end of January, I'll go right back to drinking the same amount of coffee as I was before. Just am going to try. I thought it was a good challenge for myself. So basically, I drink a cup of coffee first thing when I wake up, and I'm not changing that. I love that ritual in the morning when everyone's still asleep and the house is quiet and dark. I just love that. But then usually I get my first cup, I do some work, I do my yoga, I have some quiet time for several hours because I get up early. And then, around like 8 or 9, I will eat breakfast, and then I will have another cup of coffee mid-morning around 10. And I decided just to try to change that mid-morning cup of coffee to a tea. And usually I don't put anything in tea, so it's, calorie-free beverage when I drink it. And so I thought just having that a little bit extra time between breakfast and lunch that I'm going without any calories, I thought that would be a good challenge. I do still drink a cup of coffee in the afternoon, like I'm drinking right now. This is just an espresso shot, so it was only a tiny, tiny bit with some of my dairy-free creamer. So I still will have my afternoon coffee, which I love that ritual as well. But I thought the mid-morning coffee, I think I could let go of that and just do a tea instead, which I've really been enjoying. I do enjoy tea, but when I have the option of coffee or tea, I always, want to choose coffee because I like coffee better. So that's why it's a challenge to try to choose tea 1 out of the 3 cups that I drink during the day. So those are the ways that I have chosen to challenge myself for the month of January. And over in our group, the Indigo Cafe group that I've told you about recently, I encouraged everyone to think through how they wanted to challenge themselves, and we listed out our 3 challenges for ourselves and have been encouraging each other to, step it up and reach our goals. So that's been super fun, just having that community and support from each other. That really helps. If you're interested in checking that group out, I will put the link down in the description below. It does cost $4.99 to join. And if you're thinking about joining, definitely watch the video that I made about the group, why I created it, why it costs $4.99, all that. I'll put that link up in the cards. So if you're interested, go check that out and you can totally join in our January challenge group. Leave down in the comments any challenges that you are putting forth for yourself this month. I would love to hear about them. Sometimes just writing them down helps, just solidify it in your mind that that's something that you want to do. So definitely go down in the comments and let's chat there. Hope you guys are all doing great, and I will see you again in another video.